Hey everyone, Matt here. It is Wednesday. That is the main event time where we go over our main topics for the week. So if you're watching or listening, this is the meat and potatoes of the episode. If we happen to have any news to discuss as well, that's where we'll talk about it here. For the full episode, check us out on Saturdays.
Welcome to another episode of Stack Your Points. As always, I'm Matt Clausen, joined with RJ from Do You Take Cards. RJ, how are you today?
I'm doing well today, and of course, it's beginning of the month, so I got some Dunkin' Donuts coffee off of my gold card tonight to sip on while we talk.
Absolutely fantastic. And next up, we'll go to the man that makes Scott Kirby cry. Lonnie, how are you?
I don't make them cry. But I will say thank you for the comments about, Tariq starting his channel. We are keeping that petition going. Make sure you drop your comments that Tariq needs to start his channel. In this video and all the other subset videos from this week, we greatly appreciate it. And this is going to go on until he does it, folks. This is up to you, the listeners and viewers. Thank you very much. How you doing, Matt?
I'm honestly very loopy. It was a day of travel for me, but first time in a lounge, and yeah, that was fun. And speaking of the man who refuses to start a YouTube channel, even though all we ask is that he make a community post that literally just reads, "Football season, will post later." Tariq, how are you today?
Good. Well, the good positive note, I hit a sub bonus. I hit the sub for my IHG Premier Business, so 140,000 IHG points plus spin. The bed, my arm is starting to hurt because y'all are all twisting it. So we'll see how long it goes before I either just tap out or it breaks.
One quick thing I wanted to bring up in news, and I'll address this in another venue as well. The U.S. Bank Altitude Connect had previously announced changes earlier this year. Those changes are going into effect this week on September 4th. Not necessarily a card that anyone on this channel or on this podcast uses, but they did announce some major changes that are into effect. So the 4% on gas is capped on the first $1,000 per month now. You can no longer get gas at like Walmart, Target, Costco, whatever. The annual fee has been cut from $95 to zero, and you can only get the full 1 cent per point cash back if you have a US bank checking account. Otherwise, if you have a non-US bank checking account, the best you're going to do for cashback is going to be 0.8 cents per point. Again, I'll adjust this elsewhere, but I did want to highlight this as a card refresh that was previously announced and is going into effect. So I know we don't have to dive too deeply into that, but I just wanted to highlight that here before we went into topics. And as we go into topics, we're going to start with RJ's topic because it's a doozy. So RJ, take it away.
So we talk a lot about our redemptions on here or about, my transfer partners or Lani's or Tariq's or Matt's lack of solid transfer partners. But we haven't really sort of gone into our methodology when we're wanting to book a trip or wanting to plan out something, right? Like you guys have heard bits and pieces of that, but not sort of our entire methodology. So I put together a question that sort of lets you guys know and lets us know because I would be very interested in how everybody books. So the premise of this question is that the four of us are sitting at a cafe in Queens on the 14th of November in the morning, and I left the time nebulous so we could all get to our flights if we needed. And we are going to Seattle, Washington, for a 5-day stay. We're gonna do stack your points econ. So we're all gonna be there for 5 days, and it's basically how are you getting to the airport? What airline are you flying? Are you paying cash? Are you doing points? What hotel are you booking? Are you doing cash points, getting from airport to hotel, that sort of thing. So for me, I am doing an Uber from the cafe to LGA, LaGuardia. I am taking a flight to from LaGuardia to Cincinnati. Get in at about 4 o'clock to Cincinnati, leave Cincinnati at 6, get to Seattle at 8. And that was a 44,200 miles flight and $6 because you got to have those fees there. There is a Delta Sky Club, of which I can get into because I have a platinum card that I have access to. And then I booked a Uber from SeaTac to the hotel. I booked the AC Hotel Seattle downtown, which is a Marriott property, and I transferred approximately 125,000 points for the King room at the Marriott property. So altogether, it was $90 in Uber and the $6 fee for the flight, and 125,000 points from Amex to Marriott. I did say that all the flights had to have a layover because, you know, we got to enjoy lounges while we're on the go for fun. But that would be how I would redeem. I would use Delta. I looked for Marriott and Hilton. I got a better redemption on this time on Marriott, so that's what I went with. And yeah, so Matt, Mr. I don't have partners, I do what I want. And I was in New Orleans and trying to figure this out in a lounge. What'd you do?
So for the record, I was actually in Charleston trying to figure this out in a lounge. Yeah, so I just went with what would be the quickest way for me to kind of get this done to meet all of my requirements to have a layover and go from there. So I did a lift to LaGuardia from the Cafe Henri. That would be about $35. I then booked I would be booking a basic economy flight on United for 13,400 points. It would leave at 1:15, arrive around 7 p.m. local time at Seattle, Tacoma. Now, am I actually going to sit in basic economy? No, because I'm going to redeem the points for the basic economy seat, and I'm going to pay whatever I have to pay to either get into premium economy or pay for business class. I'm going to have a layover in ORD. I didn't look to see how long that layover is going to be, and it's Chicago, so I'm not going to get any extra lounge access with the Sapphire Reserve. This is where I sort of regret not having the United Infinite card or the United Business card to get me into, or a United Club card. I'm sorry, the United Explorer card to at least give me a pass to get into a United Club. But neither here nor there. I could also pay the $50 either way. So maybe I get a club access that way. Continue on to Seattle, and because I was rushing to try and figure this out, I went with what's the easiest hotel to book with points? Hyatt. What Hyatts are in Seattle? There's a Hyatt Regency, 12,000 points a night, 60,000 points that I could transfer from Chase to Hyatt, get 5 night stay, 12,000 points. So I am coming out with 26,800 points transferred over to United to make the economy booking, pay for an upgrade to either premium economy or Polaris, get 5 points per dollar, 5 United miles per dollar at least, with that on top of my travel UR points, 60,000 points transferred over to Hyatt, lift to LaGuardia, get the 10 times points there, the 12 times points there because I'm getting 10 times points with Chase, 2 times points with Bilt. Same thing with the lift from SeaTac to the hotel. That I saw was about $60 when I just pulled it up. So we're going to call it a $60 ride. Might be a little more, might be a little less, depends. Surge pricing and all of that, but same 10 times plus 2 and go from there. So 80 something thousand points, but I am also going to pay money to transfer up from sitting in the back of the plane in the middle of the seat. Because God help me, I'm not going to sit in the back of the plane in the middle seat. I'm going to pay to get into a seat that I'd rather be in.
Very nice. I also did Uber because it gives me Marriott points, just for the record, and I have Amex cards, which gives me money back on Uber. Tariq, I'm leaving Lani for last because I'm excited about that one. So I'm gonna go to you next, Tariq. What'd you come up with?
Well, it's good that you saved Lani for last because mine's probably going to be a little underwhelming. So yeah, start off with the lift to LaGuardia. Just pay the $35 for the lift, mostly because I don't understand. I don't want to try to navigate New York subway system like that. Not ready for it. just because of the different connections and whatnot and the transfers. I did look it up. But yeah, I'll just take my 175 UR points and then the 70 built points. My flight, it was 13,400 United miles flying from LaGuardia to Dulles. The flight's at like 6 a.m. So it's like an hour 20 flight on an E-170, which it's only an hour. And then there's like an hour layover in Dulles. So I don't have any way to get lounge access other than paying for it. But for like an hour, it's not even worth it. And then the flight be on a 737-800 from Dulles to Seattle on like a for that. So that's 13,400 miles and $5.60. Uh, Going to the hotel that I picked, because I was just looking at, okay, cool, what can I knock out for just looking at hotels? And I found there's like a Hyatt, not Hyatt Regency, not Grand Hyatt, not Hyatt, a Hyatt. And I was like, oh, cool, I could potentially knock this off Grand Explorer. So I picked the Hyatt at Olive 8. It is a category 5, but the 5 days, each day is off peak. So it would be 85,000 UR points that I would transfer to Hyatt for that. And getting there, I'm going to take the Seattle 1 line from Seattle Tacoma all the way to the Westlake station, and then it's like a quarter mile from like the Westlake station to the Hyatt, which is like $3 because I like dealing with the public transit. So all in all, $43.60, 13,400 United miles, and then 85,000 UR points transfer to Hyatt. Short, sweet, simple, to the point. Boring, bland. I'll do the economy flight. I don't care. I'm not there yet. So we'll get to see Lani is like uber extravagant, which is probably like United Polaris and like an intercontinental with his like status.
Lonnie actually flies the plane. He has that many United miles. They just let him right in the front. Lonnie, I'm very excited to hear about this redemption.
One, this question sucks because it sounds like a math problem from like a SAT exam. But
Hey, it's not as bad as the math we had to do with Space Coast last week. RJ was just decided to be Diet Space Coast, so she gave us a pass.
I'm sorry, I'm going to disappoint you, RJ. It's not going to be that like awesome because one, if I'm in Queens, unlike Tariq, and I'm not scared of the subway, I'm just going to take the subway to Midtown, cross over to Penn Station, and take the Long Island Railroad. 2 stops, the express 2 stops to EWR, and get to the airport that way. And that's probably going to cost me $5.
If that, yeah.
And I'm going to use my Chase Sapphire Reserve so I can get 15 Chase UR points for that trip. Because New York's my second home and I'm used to it. So that's how I'm going to get to the airport. I'm not going to take $80.
It's not fear, it's ignorance, Lani. Jeez.
Dude, fear sounded better.
Hey, I'm a lot of things. A liar is not one of them. I will be honest.
That's fine. That's fine. We did talk about you going to Chicago, though. So I will give you credit. And no, he's not lying. So I get it. But so that's how I got to the airport. Now, you said I had to take a layover. Jeez Louise. I had to take a layover. So anyway, United's going to get me from EWR through DC, through IAD to Seattle with a 50-minute layover, by the way. I'm probably going to be carrying on, so I don't really care running, 2 gates down. But that's going to be 14,000.3 miles for economy. Now, you already know I'm going to get economy plus for free. So I'm already going to be sitting pretty. Yes, that is going to be like a 6-something hour, maybe 5-6 hour flight from the East Coast directly over there to the West Coast. First class is not lay flat business class, so it's the older U.S. first class captain chairs. But that would have been 71,000 to 100,000 miles to just book one of those directly, and I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and book my economy. The reason why is because when I book, I also look at the seating map before I confirm. And there's a lot of seats in like the first class on both of those flights is completely unbooked, which means I'm about to get upgraded anyway. So I might as well just book it for 14,000, save a lot of miles, and I'm still going to be sitting up in the front. Now, that's going to get me there. Unfortunately, because I'm only got a 50-minute layover, I'm not going to stop in a lounge. I could. I got priority pass and I have my Centurion, but I'm not going to walk to that stupid thing. The Chase Sapphire Lounge is not worth the walk either, and I'm not going to burn a United Club pass or pay $59 to go in United Club. So I'm just going to walk to my other gate, probably grab a pretzel, and get on board my next flight because I also have that 1K status, which allows me to pre-board. So by the time I get there, it's time for me to just walk onto the flight anyway. So no lounge for me. I wouldn't pay for it anyway, but no lounge for me. Now, hotel. Now that we're in Seattle, to be completely honest, I will pick a hotel based on location before I will go with my partner. So it depends on what I'm doing, where. So Matt and I were literally just in New Orleans this weekend. I didn't stay at an IHG property. I stayed at the Roosevelt, which is a Waldorf Hilton property. Why? Because of the location that we were in and everybody else was there. Now, did I still get a deal? Yes. Separate conversation on my $19 I paid for the weekend at that particular hotel, but that's a different conversation for a different day. I would, in this case, go with the IHG property, but it's not the Intercontinental because that is not in a good part. Well, not a good part, like a bad neighborhood or anything like that. It's not in a part of Seattle in which your question resides. I would actually stay at the Kipton Vintage instead, which I could get through my corporate discount at $239 a night. But being that this is not a corporate trip, this is a personal trip, and I'm not going to be reimbursed. So I'm not going to end up at zero. I am going to use points, and it's going to be 43,000 points for the night for me to stay there. It's in walking distance of everything that we will probably end up doing anyway. So there is my very, sorry to disappoint you, story of my basically less than 60,000 points and miles to get me across the country with the layover for some reason, because I could go nonstop for the same 14,000 miles. Why would I take the layover?
Put us in New York, so we could all just take direct flights. But I wanted to see I pick layover. I do not do 1 hour layovers. I will not take a 1 hour layover. So that's a consideration I always take. So I like to throw a curveball. And I also didn't because we were in New York City, all of us could just get direct flights. I wanted to make it a little challenging. I want to make it a little fun. So yeah, but I actually really like the answers, even though Lani thinks this is boring, because it also gets us to Lani. I didn't know that you would necessarily pick location over partner for hotel stays, but now I do. And I feel like I know more about you. I feel like I know more about all of us. And that was why I asked the question. And I hope our viewers enjoy it because I certainly did.
I just want to touch on the location over partner when it comes to hotels. So here's another great example of that. I've mentioned this before. I'm not from DC. My dad's side of the family still lives there. I go there quite often. DC is literally a tale of two cities. If anybody's listening to this and not from DC, when you go to DC, you ain't going to the neighborhood my dad grew up. You're going to be facing the monuments, facing the mall, turn around, and you're going to see 80% of neighborhood where my dad grew up. Let's call it what it is. You get what I'm saying there. Now, if I wanted to go to DC, I don't want to stay at the mall. I want to stay close to my family, which, might be in the Capitol Heights neighborhood, might be in a different neighborhood, the Northeast side, something of that nature. So even though, yes, I have an IHG partnership, that's not going to do me too well to where I actually want to stay. Now, flip that thing around, because I mentioned, I think last week, I just booked another trip to DC. My son has never been there. My wife has never been there, and they want to see the monuments and the Smithsonian and the mall and things. So I booked the Waldorf, which is literally across the street from the White House. Now, when we go outside, I don't have to rent a car. We don't have to take the metro, anything like that. We can just walk out. We can walk to the Smithsonian. We can walk to the monument. So I say all that because location matters more than the partner itself. And I hope people understand that. Like, just because you have a Hyatt card doesn't mean you got to stay at Hyatt, especially if it's out of your way, because you probably are going to spend more taking a lift to get downtown or uptown or to a conference center, anything like that. So just to be cognizant of that. But I will pick the location first. And if it works out, if I can get the location I want and an intercontinental, I'm happy man.
I think Tariq's mind just got blown a little bit, but that's okay.
No, I mean it makes sense. Like even when I book Hyatts, like I try to book like within like a close vicinity of like where I want to be. Like the Hyatt Regency in Chicago, I booked that hotel specifically when I went to Chicago, is I was like literally right down the street from the Sheraton that was going to be where we're staying for the remainder of the time. I could have been at the Hyatt Place or the Hyatt Centric right off the loop, take the orange line from Midway to like the loop station where it was, but it made more sense to be in that part of Chicago, like in closer to downtown, close to the hotel, so that it could be a smoother transition. And we were able to walk from that hotel to Sheraton. So like I get it. Like, do I still want to try to get my Hyatt hotel or my plan B IHG if possible? Absolutely. But like it's not like this far-fetched foreign concept. It was just like, you know, IHGs
Yeah.
are everywhere. So I figured Lani was just gonna pick an IHG.
Chicago, well, the IHGs are everywhere, but is it a Holiday Inn or Intercontinental?
Look, I like my Holiday Inns. I don't care. I've
But
stayed in the middle of nowhere that Holiday Inn was really nice. And I've been in Holiday Inns that were nicer than the Hyatt Place or the courtyards that I've stayed in before.
yeah,
So there we go.
no, Chicago is actually a great real life example because obviously I get a lot of people like, oh, I'm going to Chicago. I want to be in this area. I want to do this and all this other stuff. We booked a hotel right on Michigan Avenue. What part of Michigan Avenue did you book that hotel? Was it North Michigan Avenue or South Michigan Avenue? Michigan Avenue, by the way, literally runs through the entire city. So you could be anywhere on Michigan Avenue. So it's those types of things, which I will pick location. Like that Hyatt Regency that sits right over the Chicago River, unfortunately faces that tower. Let's say it looks over the Apple store. It's right across looking over the Apple store. That's great if you want to be on that side of Michigan Avenue or like on the Mag Mile or anything like that. So, or if you're interested in being around Wacker and State Street or State Street, that's a completely different part. And it all that type of stuff makes a difference. But at the same time, as Tariq had mentioned, you can have a Hyatt. There's two Hyatts. There's a Park Hyatt and a Hyatt Regency right there on Michigan Avenue, but they're also half a mile apart. And that is a huge difference in that half a mile.
Absolutely. Also, going back to the scenario, I like how Tariq picked a 6 a.m. flight out of LGA where he would be leaving the Cafe Henri at around 3:30 in the morning to make it through security.
Having a very early morning cup of coffee that
Yeah,
morning.
early cup of coffee. I'll probably pull an all-nighter anyway. I'm sure the hotel right by it is good enough for me.
Just gonna put that out there.
Hey,
Ju-
You can come hang with me on the mezzanine at the Penn Station if you're not too afraid to read.
look. Hey, look. I don't know how much like, the difference between like the Red Line in Penn State, like Red Line in Chicago, where I was. I think it was like Cermak, Chinatown, Sox 35th. If it's similar, I'll be all right.
I don't remember that particular neighborhood in Queens, but I do like that you booked a 6 a.m. flight out of LaGuardia.
Yeah,
And
he's also never been at Penn Station at 3 a.m.
Yep. So we're gonna move on with topics, and Tariq, let's take it away with your topic.
Okay, so over the weekend, and this is going to be a non-credit card thing that's going to translate to my credit card topic. Over the weekend, there was a trend going on people trying to beat Chase financially through a glitch. Uh, TLDR, people were committing check fraud. thinking that they were going to get money from Chase, not realizing we're recording this on Labor Day. So the next day, when Chase realizes what has happened, they're going to come back and get their money plus interest. Um, and some people will potentially be facing federal prison time. So it had me thinking, going into the credit card community, of the certain strategies people try to do to maximize to the point where they're trying to get one over on certain banks and credit issuers uh, that are pretty risky. And we're getting into the land of manufactured spend. We're seeing, like, talking about people who will, obviously there's the people that will, if you have any cash, go to a Office Depot, buy a Visa gift card when they have like the $0 activation fees, and you putting it through like expenses, cool, whatever. I'm talking about the people that are buying those gift cards or buying cash equivalents essentially and using that money to pay off said charge to try to get the free points. And it's basically you're running risky behaviors that your banks are going to look at, and you're going to get on their bad side, whether it just be clawing back points or blacklisting. And it had me wonder, do people just not know or understand the risk, or do they understand the risk and are simply just don't care until they get hit with whatever potential consequences that may be? Because those consequences, aside from, crippling debt, will cause you to lose the game. So I just wanted to think, like, I want to actually, Matt, if you want to start, because I know you have a good analytical brain in topics like this. So I want to see what you think starting off.
So I do think a lot of folks probably don't take the risk assessment into account when it comes to something like manufactured spend. And we'll do like a back to basics at some point, probably on the topic of manufactured spend, just because it's definitely something to cover a little bit more broadly for those who aren't aware of it. But for those still, at this point in the episode, uh, manufactured spend is a process of buying something with that would the easiest thing is buying a gift card. You then take that gift card, buy a money order with the gift card, take the money order, put it back into your bank account, so that when your charge for your credit card comes up, you just take the money that you've already recycled back into your account and pay off the credit card. Bit of gray, I'll say, at best. Now, what can happen is that cash equivalents and things like that shouldn't be earning points, but you're sidestepping that by buying your gift card at a office supply store or a grocery store or wherever you're buying your gift card. So you're using a card that gets points in that category and then going through that cycle. This is one form of manufactured spend. It's the form of manufactured spend I have the most problems with. But do people not know or understand the risk? There are whole groups and sections of like Reddit that talk about manufactured spend, that talk about like how you go about this and what are the best processes for it, just because when you do it, you can get a lot of points. But if you step out of line, or you get caught in whatever nature, in whatever way you might potentially get caught, you will face either American Express's rewards abuse team, the Rat Squad, as they're called. They can shut down your account pretty quickly. Chase can potentially, not necessarily sure how often they do it, but Chase can potentially shut down your account for breaking terms and services. Any card issuer can shut you down for this. When you agree to the terms and conditions, you agree that's a binding contract, right? And your binding contract states that you shouldn't be doing this. Now, if I get away with it 99% of the time, what's the harm to me, except for that 1% of the time where it comes back? Will you get shut down by an issuer? Possibly. Is it likely? I don't know. Depends on what sort of spend you're doing. If you're buying, now this isn't to say, oh, don't go out and buy a $500 gift card to give someone as a present to, and maximize your ability to get points for that $500 gift card. This is not that. This is, don't buy a $500 gift card. Take that $500 gift card, buy a $500 money order with it, and put the $500 back into your account. That is the one that can potentially be an issue. Now, how likely are you going to get caught? Not very likely if you do it once in a while. Is this to say to do that once in a while? No. Not endorsing this in any way, shape, or form. But if you're someone who's doing this to the tune of, $500 a month, maybe you get by. If you're doing this to the tune of $10,000 or $15,000 a month, you're going to raise a red flag at some point because you're going to make a misstep. And it's not a question of if, it's a question of when at that point. When you're talking at, 5 to 6 figures a month or year of doing this, go with God, because that is the only thing that is going to help you when you're caught. I'm not too, I've gotten questions recently about like my thoughts on manufactured spend. I genuinely don't care what you do with your money, right? That is between you, your credit card company, and your ability to pay your balance. The occasional, gift card here and there, I don't care, right? Do the banks really care if you do that? No. Is it something that you should be doing to the tune of $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 a month? If you're getting away with it, great. But that train will stop. And when that train stops, I really hope you're not sitting in front of it. Like I don't know where else I can go with that. Like it is at that level, you're looking at something, to me, in my opinion, is gray at best ethically. But if you're getting away with it, just know at some point you could get stopped.
So I'll say this when it comes to that train stopping, that train isn't gonna stop. It's gonna derail. And it's gonna be just a mess. And I don't want any parts of that. We talked just jokingly about like regarding the fear for me in like certain subway stations at certain hours of the night. I fear those subreddits, the kind of go in those manufacturer subreddits to see what dark strategies and conversations they're talking about, because I don't want to deal with Chase, American Express City, Capital One, you name it, God help me, Wells Fargo, trying to knock on my door or give me a phone call or send me a letter or an email talking about, hey, we need to have a conversation about your account activity. Yeah, no parts of that. So, RJ, what do you think?
So I don't want to double back on what Matt said, so I'm going to take this in a slightly different direction. If you want to manufacture spend, that is between you, whatever deity you may or may not believe in, and your credit card, right? Like, I am not the law. I cannot stop you. What I take issue with, and the thing that I do think is a problem, is you proselytizing to people who may not have done the same level of research, who may be newer into it, who may not actually understand that this is an ethical problem, that this is a financial problem, that this could get you shut down, and you proselytizing to those people that they should do this. And if they don't do this, then they're, how can you not do this? It's free points and you don't have to pay for a bunch of stuff. And like that to me is a problem, because if you want to make choices about your own finances, you are an adult and this is a free society, and the people who are going to get you in trouble for that is not me, right? Like that is not my job. I have a hard enough job without taking on that one. But when you start proselytizing to people, when you start advocating for this position of being correct, and we're getting one over on the bank, so why wouldn't you do this? My issue happens at that point, because especially if you're going into Reddit, if you're going into servers, if you're going to comment sections on videos, if you're going into other places and telling people to do this, you're going to catch somebody who's 25 and who doesn't know any better, or even somebody who's older and doesn't know any better. Because if you don't know what manufactured spend is, you may not actually know that this is wrong, right? Like if you're somebody who doesn't have a super high financial literacy and you see this as an option, you might think, oh, that's cool. Let me go try it. And the first time you try it, you get busted because you don't know what you're doing. And yes, you should know what you're doing when it comes to finances, but we know in this country, like people have a super low financial literacy on whole. So for me, you doing what you want to do can't stop you. But I will always speak up when I see people who are telling other people to do a thing that could have a major negative financial impact on them and treating it like it's a game or a joke or no big deal because they have not got caught yet. And the thing is, the sentence is always, you haven't gotten caught yet, because eventually Chase is going to cotton on, or Amex is going to cotton on, or you're going to pass some imaginary threshold that is not written down for these companies, and your flag is going to go from green to red. And guess what? If you get banned from Amex and you do the same things with Chase, you're going to eventually get banned with Chase. And eventually, on your credit report, you're going to have a bunch of closed accounts with Amex and Chase and other things. And when you try to apply for credit cards, even if it doesn't say why your accounts are closed, having that many accounts closed en masse is going to make it harder for you to get credit cards. So you want to do stupid things, do stupid things. Don't tell other people to do stupid things and then act like it's a joke that they're not doing the stupid thing. That is my main point on this particular topic.
Yeah, and honestly, depending on which bank that you piss off, for lack of a better term, I'm pretty sure they communicate with one another outside of the credit report. So you get in bad blood with Chase. Chase might just tell Amex, they're gonna tell Citi, they're gonna tell Capital One, but they might get to the point where even Credit One may not want to deal with you. So like I'm with you on that one. Like if you want to do it, cool. Don't talk about say like it's the greatest thing in the world because in my honest opinion, it's kind of a stupid game. And if you're gonna play stupid games, you're gonna win stupid prizes. And those stupid prizes are not the ones you want, especially in the points world. So with that, Lani, you got anything you want to add to it?
Yeah, first off, when RJ, when you said, you're going to have a bunch of closed accounts and they're not going to let you have any other cards, you got to remember these are some of the biggest banks, not just in the country, but in the world. You're not getting a car, you're not getting a house, you're not getting your student loans for your kids, for your grandkids. Because you got to remember that these when you apply for these cards, when you apply for anything, you give them all your financial information. You're giving them everything. They know everything about you. So I'm going to say this. There's a difference between having a loophole and taking advantage of a system. So there's a loophole in the system and there's taking advantage of the system. And there's two completely separate things. One of them ain't that bad. Loophole is basically like what we talk about. Me point stacking is a loophole in the system. And you know what? Could it be frowned upon? Sure. But at the same time, has it really like bit me in the butt versus like stealing rewards, currencies? Absolutely not. Now, going back to my point of when you sign up for a card or anything that deals with your credit, you're giving them all the financial information that uh, you're I would even say your entire financial history. So if you put on that application that you only make $50,000 a year, but then you manufacture spend $5,000 a month, that's $60,000 a year. Where'd that extra $10,000 come from? You just got a post-it put on your account. They're looking at you a little bit differently. They're going to look into it. You're going to get caught that way. Now, in either case, a loophole or one of these take advantage style strategies either can get shut down, which we've all said. But the one thing no one said is that they'll also take all your points and miles away, like instantly. It's one of my biggest fears that one day Chase is just gonna be like, "Yo, we out." Even if I didn't do anything wrong, we've seen cards just shut down before, and you're like, "Yo, you got 30 days to move all your points or cash them out." We've seen that before. It's one of my biggest fears because I got so many Chase points across so many Chase cards. I don't think Chase is going anywhere, but it's a legit fear. Um, the other aspect of you're not getting shut down is you can get eight balled. I've mentioned this before, especially with the Mileage Plus X app. I was eight balled for like 3, 4, 5 years. Like they just cut me off. Was a lot of that because I was using the heck out of it? Probably. Let's just be real. It was probably that. They finally let me back in, y'all. But it's been a while. I had to go without it for a while. And even without it, I was still advocating for it. I told Tariq and Matt about the app while I was eight balled from the app. Maybe I got
Thank
the
you,
100
by the
souls
way.
for
Thank
maybe I
you.
got the 100 souls for Davy Jones' locker or whatnot, and they let me back in. I don't know. If y'all understand that reference or read that book, you know what I'm getting at. RJ's smiling, so I know she read the book. But I'll end it and I'll say it like this. Too much of a good thing is a bad thing. So if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true, especially when you're messing with not just other people's financials, but banks' financials. And let's say it like this. We all need water to live. We can't live without it. But you know what happens if you drink too much water? You die.
You die.
We all need oxygen to live. You know what happens if you have too much oxygen? You die.
And die.
So you gotta have that happy medium. So if you find a loophole, don't go too deep on it because yes, you could get eight balled or worse. You could get shut out, or even worse than even worse than that, get all that those points and miles you spend all that time and money on taken away. Um, I think one of the best thing to say, especially to the topic of what Tariq was saying, if everyone and going back to RJ as well, if everyone's doing it, then it's probably okay. But if you could find that one thing where it's only like one person saying it and no one else is doing it, then it's probably a bad thing and probably stray away from. Perfect example. RJ kicked this off saying she had used her Dunkin' Donuts credit on her Amex Gold for her $7, and we're all like, "Oh, just make sure like on the first of the month, add $7 to your Dunkin' Donuts gift card in the app or whatnot. Get your $7 credit, stack it up." Everyone's doing that, and no one's having an issue with it, right? But flipping subs with Visa gift cards, go find me another YouTube creator that you respect in any way, shape, or form that's talking about that, has created a video on that. I don't think it's out there. I honestly don't think it's out there. And the reason why is because we're like, yo, I'm not playing with that. So that's my 2 cents. Keep the change.
Also, one thing to keep in mind with Matt's example is it cannot just be Chase or Amex or Citi that gets involved. If you're doing wire transfers, which is what a money order is, you can get the attention of the United States federal government. And you know who doesn't mess around with financial crimes? The United States federal government. You might want to ask Al Capone about that because the only thing that we could get Al Capone on was IRS. So be careful, especially if you may or may not also pay your taxes correctly. Just a friendly reminder from your neighborhood credit card person.
When the groups that have 3 letters start calling, it starts with FBI, and then it goes to IRS, and then it goes to ATF. If it gets to I don't even know what comes after ATF. What, CIA? I don't even know what comes after ATF.
RIP.
DIE.
But it's a little too late after that.
Look, it's crazy. I didn't even think about that because I mentioned it with the Chase glitch thing. Yeah, you potentially dealing with federal prison if you're doing this completely wrong.
And not the Martha Stewart federal prison, like real federal prison.
You're doing hard time. And I don't want any parts of that. I'm going to be in the land of safety. I want the most risky loophole that I do is like a quadruple or quintuple stack that includes mileage plus X. Anything else? No, thank you.
Unless your net worth just happens to start with, 10 figures. Then financial crimes are sort of okay. They're not, but they seem to be less frowned upon, it seems. Anyway, sorry, that was weird. Let's go on with topics, and Lani, your topic for the week.
Absolutely. So I have a fun topic this week, and I'm going to ask around the horn for a why do you have it card, because there's always cards that we use, right? And then there's cards that don't really fit into our strategies. We've all talked about our strategies. I've talked about my Chase United travel portal hack, whatever, my plan A strategy before. But then I also have an Amex Platinum and an Amex Gold card. I've talked about my Amex Gold card because grocery, and it's like the best grocery earning card with some other great benefits like the Uber Eats credit and those types of things. But if, let's say like this, so I have my Amex card, that currency does not transfer to the United or IHG, which we all know are my go-to airline and my hotel partner. If I can't use those points to transfer out or good deal within the Amex travel portal, outside of those two things, why do I have it? So I wanted to ask, who else in this group has a why do you have a card? One that just does not make sense with like your plan A strategy. RJ, I'm going to start off with you.
So I have the Venture X, which I've talked about a little bit. So I have been in credit cards for a long time. I sort of have gone on and off with what I've been doing for a while. And then this year I went a little nuts for a couple of months. And as I was watching videos, people were talking about redemptions via sort of using like Flying Blue to get Delta redemptions. And that actually does work quite well if you're not in a regional airport. And the one thing I did not check with the Venture X is, do I actually have availability with Flying Blue out of my regional airport? Turns out I do not. So the hack I was going to do doesn't work. So I have a card that I can't really use for any transfer partners. I don't use the portal. And it has one of the best earnings that I have in my wallet. And now I have lounge access with it. I did use the $300 credit and it went fine. It actually showed up in my Marriott app, which was nice, but it becomes this thing where I'm not going to have it next year. Now, whether I downgrade it to keep the $10,000 of limit alive or not is to be seen. I'd probably downgrade it to a Saver One and then just never use it, which I don't love, but there's only so much you can do in the Capital One ecosystem that makes any sense. And it would be nice for entertainment, because then I would just have cash back on that. But yeah, that is my why do I have it card. And the reason is that I didn't do enough research, which I kind of, if it wasn't $400, I would almost keep it as a reminder to myself to do that. But I don't want to keep a card and have to use a portal I don't want. I have enough sense not to do that. If it was $100 maybe, but not for $4. But yeah, I did some research. I did 90% of the research I needed, except I didn't check my local airport. And checking your local airport when you're out of a regional airport should be step number one. And I missed step number one and went to number two. Now, if I lived where literally any of my co-hosts lived, it wouldn't be a problem. But I live in the wrong part of New York to be able to use that hack.
I'm sorry, but yeah, that's on you if you didn't check your own regional airport.
Yeah.
But here's the
I don't-
thing.
You live
It
and you
was
learn,
my
though.
fault. I own it, and it was a learning opportunity for me. It was one of those things where I learned incredibly quickly once I did it. because I did the pre-check with Capital One. Like I did the will you give me this card? And for like 3 weeks, they're like, no, we won't give you this card. And then finally it showed up. And I was so excited. I was on a trip. I was like, I want this card because everybody says it's awesome. I watched one of Josh's videos and he like talks about this card like it will cure cancer if you hold it up to somebody's forehead. Um, for him, it's great because of where he's flying out and other things he's doing. For me, it didn't work, and I didn't. That was the one piece of research I didn't do. I own it. It's 100% my fault, but I will never, ever make that mistake again. And I've had to do research on a couple of cards, and turned out I didn't get them. And a couple of cards, it turned out they became better than I thought, and I did get them. So it taught me a valuable lesson, and I got the $300 credit. So I ended up getting enough value out of it that it was a wash. So it didn't hurt me in the long term.
See, Matt, going back to my earlier statement, that Capital One Venture X just has a good word of mouth, man. It just like sounds good hits the ear different. I don't know what it is for folks. Anyway, thank you, RJ. Matt, I'm gonna pass it to you next. What's your why do you have it card? I know you got at least one, maybe two.
Two? Oh, please. No, I've got so many. This is before I jumped into points and miles and started realizing that, oh yeah, no, that's a better way to like get value out of using credit cards. So in the pre points and miles phase, where I shocked people with today was the first day I ever set foot in a lounge. Like the first time I set foot in the lounge was today. I actually met up with Chad from Chad's Money Minutes in the lounge in New Orleans this morning, and he was floored by it. I was just like, I only switched to miles last year. Like, I haven't had the opportunity to yet.
May I ask which lounge it was?
It was the club at New Orleans.
Yeah, I went to that one.
It's small, it's not great, but you know, it's better than sitting at the gate for 2 hours.
Also, yes.
In the before time, there are plenty of cards that I got that really don't make sense. The biggest one that sticks out, like the sorest of thumbs, is the X1 card. That was originally the only reason I applied for that card or like jumped on the waiting list was, oh, this is a 2x everything card that could become a 3x everything card if you spend enough money on it. And the biggest draw on it was Dave Hansen dropping it and it sounding really cool when it dropped on the desk. Like, you want to talk about word of mouth nonsense? That was some word of mouth craziness. The card is functionally stupid. You don't get 2% in terms of a full 1 cent per point cash out. You get 0.7 cents per point. So it's not even a full 2% earner. The most I can do with that card, with the points that I've accrued on that card, and I'm still paying a bill on that card that I need to move to another card. After that, it'll be effectively dead. All I can do to get some value with that card, with the points I've earned on that card, is like cash it out for a DoorDash gift card to push into my DoorDash app, just so that I never have to think about the card again. And then DoorDash has some money in it that I can like use that credit and then like try to figure it out with my Sapphire Reserve credits. That might be the only thing I can think of with that. Otherwise, that card is functionally dead. Other cards that now no longer make sense, the Capital One Quicksilver card. I don't use it anymore. I plan on canceling it at some point. And to a much lesser extent, everybody loves the card, but I have no further use for the Capital One Saver One, with the exception of Capital One likes to offer me balance transfers every year. And they're like, hey, do you want a 0% balance transfer? All you have to do is pay us the transfer fee, because Capital One is so desperate to get money from me that they offer me balance transfers all the time on a card that I shouldn't be getting balance transfers on anymore. So it still has a small function in my life, but it's not for anything like plan A, plan B. It's, oh, I could use, if I want to use some 0% APR, I can do that and like futz around with some liquidity. But that's just because Capital One wants me to pay 3%.
I was just making sure you were done before I jumped back in.
Yeah.
You didn't end that like with a strong period. I just wanted to make sure you were done.
No, weak period on that one just because like now the cards that I'm getting will like have a role, but in the before time, the X1 card, which is now just useless, especially now that Robinhood has it and they have nothing with it. And then the Capital One cards because Capital One is sort of useless itself.
Got it. No, thank you for that. And yeah, you're right. I remember that X1 card, especially when it announced or whatnot. I thought it was cool, but I'm glad I went through the road that you didn't go down, and I never went with the card. Tariq, why do you have it?
So I was thinking about going through like my old cashback cards, like but half of them are just like rendered useless. So I'm actually gonna go with the card that I just hit the bonus for, being the IHG Premier Business card. My partners being United and Hyatt, it kind of doesn't really make sense for at least for the hotel, like on the surface to go for IHG, but in just realizing hotel availability and the overall footprint of Hyatt, there are some cities where I am going to visit within like one this year and even in the few following years that Hyatts aren't anywhere near. Um, I go visit my girlfriend's parents. I alternate between Christmas and Thanksgiving. The nearest Hyatt is like an hour, like half 30 minutes to an hour away. That doesn't make any sense. I'm not gonna go get a Hyatt. There's like 5 IHG properties in the area. Next year, for those who don't know yet, big college football fan. Um, one of the cities that I'm going to next year is Denton, Texas, home of the University of North Texas. There is not a Hyatt. The nearest Hyatt is like in Fort Worth or somewhere in Dallas. Again, out of my way, I want to be in the city that I'm going to be to try to make my commute as quick as I can to go from hotel to football stadium. So when I was looking at a Plan B hotel partner, I decided on IHG for the platinum status because if we're being honest, it is you can get the cheapest way to get elevated status for regardless of like your big four hotel brands at like the $99 annual fee. Like the only other annual fee that's going to be comparable would be like the Marriott Bonvoy Boundless. That one is a 95, but you only get Marriott Silver. Um, so I was like, okay, cool. If I'm going to find a Plan B hotel brand, let me find one that can get good status. And I like the IHG Premier Business. I got the business variant because I am beholden to Chase at the moment because Hyatt's still there. So I want to follow their rules. And I also was like, cool, I can get the priority pass. I can get this United Travel Bank, which I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do with it because $25 isn't a lot, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So, and the fourth night free benefit when booking with points. So there is just a lot of value in that card that made me decide to just pull the trigger on that one. And it is a somewhat of a keeper slash sock drawer card, except for the times where I need to go book an IHG hotel in cash, or I can just go top up on points because I can get 3x on everything, 5x on gas. And, because the well is going to run dry on my Freedom Flex in like March, where I'm not going to get 5x on gas. And it was either that or like my City Custom Cash or God help me, my Costco Anywhere Visa card by City to get anything higher than 2x on gas. Yeah, that's my why do I have it? I don't use it anymore. And so yeah, that's the reason why I wanted the IHG card. I can hit a category that I can earn points on, and I can get a lot of value on the card. And Lani, since you made that face, I can let that be my cashback. Why do I have it card? I when I was in college, I live like close to a Costco, like 5 minutes away. So I would go to the Costco gas stations. I love Costco, and 4% cash back on gas seemed like the coolest thing in the world. I didn't even get a sign-up bonus on it. No turkey, no tote bag, nothing. I say turkey, no chicken, no tote bag, nothing. I just wanted the card. It was elusive, and I got it, and I'm looking at it now. And like I'll put like the Costco membership fee on it, and then like that's it. It gets like no other spend now.
I call party foul because the IHG business makes sense for you because it's your backup chain with Hyatt. So I don't think that counts.
It's not part of my plan A strategy though. It's a
But
plan
it's your
B.
strong plan B strategy because of Hyatt's availability. So I don't think it counts. I call foul.
Can
Well,
I just chime in with the Costco card no longer makes sense for you? The Costco card is the answer.
Costco card is the answer, but also RJ, I did only ask for plan A's.
I
Down
was
barrel.
listening. I was
I
beholden
have to play
to plan
fair. I
A.
have to play fair.
Thank you.
I give them enough crap. I got to give them credit. I did
Thank
only
you.
ask for plan A's.
If
That's
he would have
fair, but
said like overall strategy, yes, I would have went with the Costco Visa because that card just it sits like in the sock drawer of my sock drawer right now.
But thank you for that, all three of you. I do feel like I should probably explain my Platty, my Amex Platinum card, because I did ask the question. And once again, it's not a great answer. Or don't expect anything extravagant. It's pretty straightforward. The first thing was, like I had mentioned, I already had an Amex Gold card, so I was already in the MR bucket. Amex gave me 175K offer sign up bonus. So who's going to say no to that? That's like what, 21, almost 22 points per dollar as a sub right there, without any extra point stack. Well, you can't really earn anything unless you're booking a flight or
every week.
booking a hotel through the Amex travel portal. But anyway, the other main reason is I use it as my secondary United card. That $200 credit, it actually works very, very well as a airline card because you get 5x from your airline. So that's more than what I'm going to get from using my United card, right? So works really well there. The $200 airline credit, if I don't use it for anything, I can always just drop it in my travel bank, which I can save for 5 years when I do that. So I could stack those up over, for year over year over year. But also, my United card only gives me 2 United Club passes a year with my, annual fee, where I could use my airline travel credit to buy more United Club passes if I needed or wanted to. So, for example, I'm about to take a trip with not just my wife and son, but the mother-in-law is also coming. We have enough United Club passes for my direct family, not one for her. So that I could cover her in that way if need be. And then the second way is my secondary hotel card, which makes just total sense. You guys all know my plan A strategy. I will book hotels with my Chase, not my Chase, my Chase, my United, and my IHG points. But now, if I were to use that, does lock me into IHG and the Chase travel portal, things like that, or transferring them out to partners. But that now also opens me up to Hilton and Marriott as transfer partners. And then on top of that, if I were to book fine hotels and resorts with points, I still get all the fine hotels and resorts perks and benefits minus the $200 that you will only get once a year anyway. But other than that, you still get all those same benefits and credits. So it makes total sense when I explain it that way. But that is why I get the question all the time of, why do I have it? That's why I have it. But that 175K was clutch. Matt and I talked maybe like for a month waiting for a good offer to drop.
Also, you're able to use that. I'm sure you were one of the several people who used the FHR credit this past weekend in New Orleans because.
I told you I walked away only paying $19
Yep.
with upgraded suite, King's 1-bedroom suite at the Waldorf. $19, y'all. If you know how to use it. If you don't know how to use it, hit subscribe.
Yeah, when everyone mentioned they were going to the Roosevelt because it was such a great deal, I was like, oh nope, FHR, 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 FHR. I went, that's great. I don't hold that card. I can't get that benefit, and I'm not booking it directly. So I stayed at the Eliza Jane and had a wonderful time there. Anyway, my question kind of harkens a little bit to a video that came out this past weekend that I got the opportunity to watch before we started recording. But my question is there such a thing as a best starter ecosystem, or should you not worry about how you start in the game? I'm going to go right off the bat and go, I don't think you should worry. You should start with where do you like to go? What is the best way for you to get to where you want to go? And when you're there, what hotels have you liked staying at? So first and foremost, the genesis of your strategy and your game should really be what partners do I like to use and how best can I start using them to my advantage. I don't think you have to prescribe to the Chase ecosystem first or the City ecosystem first or trying to jump into American Express and paying $1,000 a year before you like really have an idea of, you know what? I don't like staying at Marriott's. I don't know why you would say that, but if you have the attitude of I don't like staying at a Marriott, why are you picking a system that primarily uses Marriott? Or Choice at 1-to-1 when you can get 1-to-2 with Choice if you really like Choice with City or Wells. So the question is there such a thing as a best starter ecosystem, or should you not care? So RJ, your thoughts here.
I think every ecosystem is the best ecosystem for somebody. And I think that ultimately is my answer. Like, if you know you want to use Delta as your sort of main partner, if you're like me, and that is the airline of which makes the most sense for you, right? Amex probably is going to be the best ecosystem for you to get in. Yes, you're going to pay a lot of money, but if you want Delta and you want that as your transfer partner, kind of got to go to Amex at some point. You might as well start off. And there are some starter cards that you can get in the Amex ecosystem that aren't $695. At least 2 or 3 of them, from what I remember. So if you want, Hyatt or
any other card in the Amex ecosystem is not $695.
Yeah.
I think there's only one over that.
There are 3 at like the 600 mark. Anyway, if you want Hyatt, like if you know you want Hyatt, then, Chase is a good ecosystem. So I really think it goes back to what I harp on all the time. If you have strong preferences, just go with that ecosystem. It will make your life so much easier. Now, if you don't, say you're a complete novice, say, maybe you had kids, so you had one strategy and the kids are gone, so you're moving from cashback to something else, and you're in a much, better financial position, then I would probably say start, depending on how you feel about like a lot of this also comes down to how you feel about portals. If you're comfortable using portals and leaving it up to that, unlike me, who I don't like portals at all, that's going to change things, right? Because you could go all in with Wells Fargo and just use their portal to book whoever you want, and it doesn't matter. So I think there's a lot of considerations, but ultimately my answer is any ecosystem can be the best starter. You have to be the person for that ecosystem for it to really ultimately work.
Speaking from experience, having kids will change your strategy.
Yes. Although I didn't have a strategy when. Anyway, Lani, your thoughts here beyond kids will change your strategy.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go a little bit left with my answer and not say there's a particular ecosystem brand card you need to start off with. Even if it's a starter card, you don't necessarily have to start with $0 annual fee card. The best starter strategy, I would say, is trial and error plus experience. So while you have the opportunity, like, figure out what might be the best for you. It could be okay, it could be great, or it could not work at all. That's where trial and error comes in. So that could be a high annual fee card, like RJ had mentioned, or $0 annual fee card. I mean, it could literally be the built card if you're really getting started off and you're renting it. It's just like, whatever. But this is where experience comes in. Whatever you are trial and erroring and getting used to, get used to it. Get used to that particular card. Get used to how to use it, how you can redeem those points, how to earn those points. Get that experience in. That will actually lead you to picking your partners. And once you start picking your partners, you will now have that type of experience that you can build upon. So you might start off with like a Chase Freedom Unlimited or a Chase Freedom Flex, and you could know that card inside and out, which could say, as RJ had mentioned, it's like, yo, I got this Chase card now, but I'm happy with cash back, but I'm not in the Chase ecosystem. Hyatt's not going to work for me, which leads you to somewhere else. That's where trial and error plus experience. So you might end up with Amex and build up on your Amex stuff. Does Freedom Flex have to go away? No, you could just keep it as a cashback card. Who knows what you do with it? But it's also $0, whatever. But that's the point that I'm getting at is try some things out. You don't have to go all in. You do not have to cannonball to the deep end of the pool. It could be zero entry. You can tiptoe into that sucker, and it's still the exact same pool, just the different side of it. So I would 100% recommend, if you're definitely getting started, figure out where you can start. See if this kind of works for you or not, and then build up upon it from there. And I guarantee if you do it that way within at least 2-3 years, you will have a great foundation plan A strategy that you probably will be very amiss to like sway from. Like I said, this is the way I did it over a long period of time for me to realize exactly Chase plus United plus all this stuff to build my plan A strategy. And it works so well for me that it's like, I don't really need to sway out of it too much. And like I said, the only time I did was when I finally got my Amex card 2 years ago because my son was born and I started buying groceries and I realized I wasn't making points on groceries in my plan A strategy. It's like, man, where did all these groceries come from? And then now I have Amex as a plan B strategy, but I would never learned of Amex or put Amex as a plan B strategy in the way that I just mentioned in my last answer. That is, if it weren't for understanding the trial and error and the experiences that I've already gone through with my plan A strategy.
Absolutely. And once again, Chase lost Lani partially by not offering a permanent grocery category anywhere.
Waiting on the day. Waiting on the day.
It'll be a glorious day when it comes. I don't know what, like, Joe cut his gold card. I don't know what Lani would do with his gold card when he gets to cancel it because Chase is finally seeing the light of a permanent grocery category.
Chase gets grocery or Wells gets transfer partners that we all like?
Don't care about Wells. So hopefully
I know I know you don't, but I'm saying what happens first.
I don't think it'll matter because if Wells gets transfer partners that everybody likes, everybody's still going to try to set Wells on fire. Again, they could do the 10x everything card and multiply out to Hyatt 1 to 2, and everybody would still hate them.
Not Tariq.
We'll see. Tariq, your answer on this one.
Okay, so to answer RJ's question, the obvious is going to be Wells Fargo transfer partners because Chase moves at the speed of molasses when it comes to like innovation, but it's whatever. Obviously, for the answer to your topic, it is a Lani answer, and I say it's a Lani answer because it all boils down to picking your partners. I'm actually going to go and kind of piggyback of how Lani says, like the trial and error and just going off like previous experiences. So a lot of the travel that I did up until this point, up until I got into the game, was parents booking flights, booking hotels, and even like high school doing like some hotel stays and flights. So I've had a lot of experience on Southwest flights and a lot of Marriott's with a couple Hyatts. I think I stayed at like 2 Hyatts before I got into like deep in the Hyatt game. So when I first started picking my partners, as I've mentioned before, I was like, okay, cool. I had experience with Southwest. I like Southwest. And I had experience with Marriott, and I like Marriott. And like that's what drove me to Chase. And it wasn't until like more trial and error and kind of like trying to implement the strategy where I realized I can still stay with Chase, but went from Southwest and Marriott to Southwest and Hyatt, and now United and Hyatt where I'll probably be unless Hyatt does something egregiously stupid. So, uh, long story short, it's basically picking your partners is for the best starter ecosystem because you could be with Chase and Bill, just Bill, Wells Fargo if you don't really care for partners and just want to earn City, which actually is arguably the best earning category, but again, it has slightly better categories than Wells Fargo or transfer partners than Wells Fargo. So, yeah. And then or Capital One. So it just depends on again your partners and also where you spend the most if partners aren't your cup of tea. So there we have it. Sorry for the couple jabs, Matt, but I had to keep it going.
That's all right. You just like living in the corner and start your channel, please. Anyway, I think that's going to wrap it up for topics there. We're going to put that bow on there. Sorry, I'm loopy from travel. It's been a long, long day for me. So we're just going to wrap up here. Lani, if we wanted to find you on the great interwebs, where would that be?
Well, like Snoop Dogg and Chingy once said, you can find me at the Holiday Inn, which is an IHG property, by the way. But yeah, you can find me on YouTube. My channel name is Call Me Lani. Oh, no one found that funny. All right, screw all y'all. But anyway,
I just didn't realize that was Snoop and Chingy. Sorry.
I think it's Chingy. But anyway,
Channel
channel
name
name
stuck in my head for the rest of the night.
I might go listen to it after this. Channel name is Call Me Lani, all one word. Lani is spelled Lani. You can find me right here on YouTube. So stop by, hit subscribe, and leave me a comment. Let me know that you came from the Stack Your Points podcast. I really appreciate it. I am really close to hit my next subscriber goal to 3,000. So I'd love for you to join my memberships.
Absolutely. RJ, where can we find you?
You can find me in the Stack Your Points Discord because Tariq still hasn't gotten a channel. And you can also find me in the Stack Your Points Fantasy Football League, and Tariq and I are matched up for week 1. So this should be a very fun season of football. I think I have New Orleans in another league for my defense. So that is his NFL team. So I will be, I'm sure, talking to him all season about New Orleans defense.
I think either way, whether that is a win or loss, one of those participants has to start a channel immediately. And to that end, Tariq, how can we find you on the interwebs, whether it be through not starting a channel or the Stack Your Points Discord? Are there any other ways we can find you?
Well, you can find me hopefully at UFCU Stadium in San Marcos, Texas, because I'm going to be watching my beloved UTSA Roadrunners taking on the Trash Cats of Texas State University, which is again part of the reason why they said that channel thing. But funny enough, if I did, I kind of have a name for it, so who knows? Or maybe I can just drag it on and see how long I go before they just decide to boot me out of the podcast. So, but
We're at 4 weeks now.
Yeah, we're just gonna invite you, but keep you on mute the entire time. So you just gotta sit there in silence.
Hey, well, I'll see how long it goes. Again, my arm is still twisting. It kind of hurts, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just some weird masochist that's trying to endure the pain. But yeah, you can find me on the Stack Your Points podcast. And yeah, RJ, I'm sorry in advance because you have the Saints.
So
I speak from experience.
I just want to call it out, listeners and viewers, that Tariq just admitted that he could. He doesn't have he even has a channel name, but he's choosing not to, at the detriment of each and every one of you.
I didn't say
Just
I
rem-
wasn't. I just
just
didn't say when.
just remember
Again,
that. Just
my
remember
bar
that, y'all.
listeners, he just needs to put a community post up. Football season, be back later. I just need 5 words in a community post, and I'm happy. But that's going to do it for this week's Stack Your Points. If you like what we do, give us a like and subscribe on YouTube. You can give us 5 stars on the podcatcher of your choice, be that Apple Podcasts, Audible, Amazon Music Podcasts,
YouTube.
Overcast, YouTube. Uh, if you can find it on a podcatcher, please give us 5 stars. If you have a question, drop it into the YouTube comments is probably the easiest way to do it. If you're a member of the Discord, you can ask questions on the Discord as well. We have a podcast question section there. Join the Discord if you're interested. Link will be in the description as well. And yeah, just drop us a like and subscribe, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Bye for now.
Hey everyone, Matt here. It is Wednesday. That is the main event time where we go over our main topics for the week. So if you're watching or listening, this is the meat and potatoes of the episode. If we happen to have any news to discuss as well, that's where we'll talk about it here. For the full episode, check us out on Saturdays.